All right, well, hey, welcome to Convoy Convo here in my living room. I'm here with my friend Gabe. Gabe, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody what you do.
Of course. So my name is Gabe Monger. I am an insurance agent for Source One Insurance Group, focusing on the business side. I started out in transportation out of college, and then inevitably went into the insurance space. And with my prior career, I've focused a lot of my book of business and my clientele surrounding trucking companies, transportation companies, companies involved in logistics.
Awesome. And so I want to ask you some questions about that, right? You're an expert in the space.
Of course.
So we had some previous conversations about this before our recording here today, but the first question I have is, what do you see as the biggest risks in trucking today?
Biggest risks in trucking by far are the claim side.
Okay.
Over the past 4 years, nuclear verdicts is what we call them.
Yep.
Basically an award over $10 million. They've risen by 300% according to the ATRI. So the claims payout is by far the biggest risk. And obviously when you've got these claims of this substantial size, everybody is going to feel it.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to feel it through increases, even if they have a clean record. And there's quite a few driving factors. Okay. So one of them is third-party litigation funding. So you basically have investors that keep these claims going for the goal of getting them before a jury, right? So they get a bigger settlement and then they get a piece of the pie. Okay. Second is reptile theory. Have you ever heard of reptile theory?
Tell me about it.
So basically reptile theory means that it's a tactic that they use in the legal system where they want to make the jury feel personally unsafe. That this person, this plaintiff, they are on the hook for creating devastation based on the claim at hand. So you're taking the legal nuance out of that, and it's a fear tactic. You're basically just saying your community is unsafe because of these drivers out here. And then higher visibility for legal advertisements. So you go down I-69, you're going to see billboards everywhere. Trucking accident, call 888 such and such. Everybody has access to these. It's not back in the 90s where we're flipping through a phone book trying to find a lawyer. You just type it in. There you go.
They made it easy.
They made it easy. And with all of those outside forces, that is what is causing these claims just to go higher and higher and higher. I mean, I've seen there's a claim down in Florida. The settlement was $1 billion. Now these companies, it's not going to have $1 billion, but they did that to prove a point that it can go that high based on the severity of a claim. If you had cameras, who knows what direction that would take.
Yeah. So when we talked about this last time, you mentioned everybody feeling it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the form of rate increases. How does that actually manifest itself across the industry?
Sure. So number one is rate increases.
Okay.
Right? Because if you have more going out versus coming in, then the insurance company, they have got to adjust rates. They have to, because insurance carriers, they're a business, okay? They're not a charity, so they're in it to make money. It is all predictive modeling and actuarial based. So when they see a specific sector of their book not being profitable, then they're going to adjust accordingly. But the fallout also means tighter guidelines when it comes to actually underwriting, specifically looking at safety scores.
So what are some things that these trucking companies can do to help combat those rate increases or potentially get access to better coverage?
Of course, it's multifaceted. So the number one thing is focusing on their safety metrics, right? I call them CAB scores, but unsafe driving, vehicle maintenance, driver fitness, controlled substance, things of that nature, right? They can really focus on that, get a good safety person to kind of direct that and drive those behaviors. Another thing is driver vetting as well. Attracting and retaining good drivers that believe in the culture that you're building. And then the third thing is cameras.
Okay. Which I love hearing about cameras. Obviously, we're Convoy Technologies.
Of course.
That's what we do. So tell me how cameras fit in.
So cameras, video doesn't lie, right? So the biggest thing that a camera does is it potentially could exonerate a driver and a motor carrier from a claim that they truly weren't responsible for. Perfect example, a couple years ago, I had a client's trucking company. They were in a metropolitan area, driving down the highway. You got a private passenger vehicle that got onto the highway, cut them off within feet, and decided to brake check, right?
Yeah.
They've got dash cams, okay? Their carrier inevitably denied that claim because there's no way an 80,000 pound missile can brake within seconds.
So those dash cams are huge. And obviously at Convoy, we support telematics companies and people who support those dash cameras. And one of the things that we get excited about is the idea of adding additional cameras around the truck, right? That dash cam is fantastic unless something happens behind the truck where maybe you couldn't see it with just that dash cam. You're in the industry, you're in the space. Tell me what you think about these additional cameras and what you're seeing as far as trends that way.
I think inevitably it's going to be a must. With the high litigation costs, I feel like these insurance companies are going to have more of a focus on video, not only front and rear facing, but also all angles. And two, a lot of people don't think about is when you've got these cameras showing the full angle of your tractor hooked up to a trailer, it also protects your cargo.
So cargo is another interesting topic.
Of course.
There are lots of headlines right now about cargo theft and this and that and the other. So when you think about protecting cargo, do you think about that as like a bundled responsibility for the carrier, or is that, how does that work? I mean, because we could put cameras inside of the truck and inside of the back end of that truck to keep an eye on things if you wanted to.
Yep.
So now we're talking about a comprehensive type of insurance coverage. Is that what's coming? Is that what's next?
That's something that is important to me because I've been through quite a few cargo claims involving theft, especially when it comes to higher dollar. And ultimately, when the carrier is shipping it, that is their responsibility. Right. So if something were to happen through the course of travel, that's going to be on them, and that's going to be their insurance that triggers. So at the least, it could be a good diversion. And also, too, it could potentially catch the culprits if they actually come away with the cargo.
Awesome. Some of the conversations that I have in the industry tell me that operators at times push back on the concept of cameras. My experience has been once they have them, especially something that offers them real-time visibility assistance, they don't want to give it back. Mm-hmm. Are you saying the same thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. The whole Big Brother thing, right? When they've got something facing towards them. But I've also seen on the flip side where you've had a driver that has gone along with it because they have to. They're still not okay with it, but they get exonerated from an accident that they did not do. And then they're a believer.
And that makes sense, right? I mean, I think I don't have a full stat, but I've heard something to the effect of 80% of these accidents that involve a large truck weren't necessarily the driver's fault. But there's really no way of proving that, because what I've heard in the industry is that driver has such an enormous amount of responsibility on their shoulders that it almost feels like it's guilty until proven innocent.
That is absolutely, I tell everybody, when it comes to a trucking company, you are guilty until proven innocent. You are, because you are a professional driver. So the burden of proof is automatically on you when something happens. If you don't have cameras, it comes to a he said, she said. It comes to what's on the crash report. And if you don't have that undeniable evidence when you're going into a court of law through litigation, especially before a jury, that's when it really, really, really can come back and bite you if you don't have that undeniable evidence of video.
Are people going to get a discount if they have cameras on their truck?
It can help with credits. Okay, so we call them credits, which basically means you apply credit, you get dollars off. All of it, it's a culmination. So if you have cameras, that means you are safety focused, and an underwriter is going to love that aspect, especially if everything else comes into play as far as clean loss history, your safer scores, things like that. Then they will be more encouraged to offer credit, because for them, they are going to reward somebody that is doing something the right way. And also, too, going back to video doesn't lie, a carrier is going to feel more comfortable by offering a lower rate because the likelihood of a claim happening is mitigated through cameras.
So if a company comes to you, mm-hmm. they're looking for insurance, mm-hmm. are you recommending that they have cameras if they don't today?
100%. It can really, really save their company, right? Their company, what they have built, the blood, sweat, and tears that have went into this, but also, too, their risk profile.
So elaborate on their risk profile. What does that look like?
So a company's risk profile is going to be the overall culture, because it all starts with the culture, right? If you are here and there looking at these reports, looking at the out of services, looking at the violations, you're not really making progress. You're kind of sitting idly by. So if you can put some exertion of energy towards having the constant talks with your drivers, with the management staff, I have seen that it 100% can pay off. So with an underwriter, what they're looking at for a risk profile is they're looking at loss history. They're looking at CAB scores from the Central Analysis Bureau, which basically is your SMS scores. They are looking at the radius of operations, right? Where you go. Are you regional? Are you long haul? Are you local? And they're looking at commodity hauled, because sometimes commodity, if it's a high theft item, they may not want to cover it. So all of that goes into a company's risk profile. And the biggest part of that is going to be the safety aspect, because ultimately, unsafe company, they're going to have violations, they're going to have out of services, inevitably leads into claims.
Gabe, really appreciate you coming down and sharing your knowledge with us today.
Of course.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yep. So again, my name is Gabe Monger. I'm a business insurance agent for Source One Insurance Group. We're on the southwest side of Fort Wayne. You want to check us out online, sourceoneinsurance.com. One is spelled out, O-N-E. See you there.
And if you're ready to look at cameras for your fleet, give us a call at Convoy Technologies, or look us up online, convoytechnologies.com. We're ready to help you get started.